Hello Year 4, it's Mrs Lancaster here with your new art unit for this half term. This half term we're going to be thinking about a technique in art called Pointillism. So before we get started, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to pause now. I'd like you to go over to the Google Drive where you will find a PowerPoint presentation which is all about Pointillism. It's going to introduce the technique and you're going to meet some of the artists that created it and used it. When you watch the video, when you've watched the PowerPoint, come back and see me and we're going to talk about some art terms and I'm going to give you your task for your first session. Fantastic. So you've watched the PowerPoint presentation, so you will know now that Pointillism is all about creating a picture using lots of little dots, and you found out about some of the artists that used that technique. What I'd like you to do here is we're just going to be thinking about colour, and on the left hand side of your screen you will see two images. What I'd like you to do is I would like you to look really carefully at those images, and I would like you to think about what's the same and what's different about them. So if you pause the recording now, give you time to have a look at them, and then come back and I'll explain to you what's the same and what's different about them. We can see that there are two images here on the left hand side, and on the top image we can see that our sort of circle has been divided into thirds. There's three different parts to it, and there's a red part, there's a blue part and there's a yellow part. Now these three colours are known as the primary colours, and we can see on the bottom image that we have got a shape, a circle again, that's divided into six equal parts. And the thing that's the same about this shape is we've still got those primary colours there. We've still got the red, the blue and the yellow. But in addition to that, we've got three new colours. We've got orange, green and purple. And these are known as secondary colours. Over on the right hand side, there are two more images. And what I'd like you to do in a minute is I'd like you to pause the recording and I'd like you to have a look and think about what's different about them. What is different about them? And then come back and I'll tell you what is different about them. These images on the right, if I look at the top one, I can see I've got a yellow there, I've got a red, and I've got kind of a brown colour. Now when I look at the colour yellow, it reminds me of daffodils, sunshine, sand on the beach, and all those things happen in the summer when it's hot. And again with red reminds me of lava in a volcano, flames in a fire, and again all those things are hot. So the three colours at the top are known as hot colours, whereas the three colours at the bottom, the green, the purple and the blue, are known as cold colours or cool colours. So we've got warm colours at the top and cool colours at the bottom. So moving on, what you can do here is if you click on the picture, there's a little song that's going to talk a little bit more about primary, secondary, warm and cool colours. So you can watch that and then come back and we're going to be thinking about some artistic vocabulary, and then I'm going to give you your task to do for this week. Hope you enjoyed the song. On the slide here you can see lots of different words. We've got texture, shade, tone, pattern, shape, space, form and line. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk to you about all these different words, because you're going to need to use this information in a minute to create some mini mind maps. So if we're thinking about texture, that's how something feels when it's touched, and it's a really important part of art, but obviously we can't feel drawings. So I want you to think back to when we were designing our dragon eyes that we made in clay, and we spent a lot of time talking about texture and how we could create texture using shapes and patterns on a page. So texture's all about shapes and patterns to create the image that something feels and looks different. Okay, Then if we think about pattern, a pattern is a design, and you can see inside the little word pattern there's lots of different designs. And a pattern is a design in which lines and shapes and colours can be repeated, and they can be regular or irregular. So there's lots of different patterns that we can be using, that we can use to show texture. If we're thinking about the words tone, tone means how light or dark a colour is. So you can see by the little image next to tone that we've got different tones of the colour red there, and you can make a tone darker by adding black to it, and you can make a tone lighter by adding white to it. Okay, that's really similar to sort of shade, and shade is all about, and you can see shade at the top there with a little example, shade is all about using the colour, the tones, to give your picture, your drawing, a three-dimensional kind of shape. So, you know, if we were looking at the sphere in the picture there, we can see that it's casting a shadow, that we've got a shade much darker there to show that there's a shadow, to show where the light is hitting. We can see there's a bright part where the light's hitting, and then if we followed the line down with our eye, we could see that there would be a shadow cast, and we're using the tone, a darker tone, to show the shadow. When we're thinking about line, we're just thinking about different types of line, and we can have straight lines in art, we can have curved lines, we can have lines that form angles, we can have wavy lines. There's all sorts of different lines that we can have. Then if we think about form, it shows us about a three-dimensional shape. So how could we make our pictures three-dimensional? And we looked at this in maths when we looked about we've talked about drawing right at the start of the year. When we talked about drawing a cube, we wanted to show our 1,000 cube as a picture, and I showed you how to draw that. Okay, and then shape is all about the shape of the object that you want to draw, really, and space is the amount of space that it takes up on the page. So we've got to think about whether things are close to us or whether things are far away, and how much space and what shape those are going to need to be. So lots of words there, lots of vocabulary. You could go and do a little bit of your own research on those different words, so that you've got a little bit more understanding and a little bit more knowledge, because your task in a moment, and I've put some different sort of words up here to show you that lines can be faint, that means they're light, they can be sharp, they can be thick, they can be broad, which is wide. So there's lots of different words here that describe and talk about colour and texture and shape and pattern. So that might help you in a moment. But what I'm going to need you to do is I'm going to need you to choose 6 of these words. And there's 8 there to choose from, but I want you to choose 6. And if you go into the Google Drive, you'll see this document there. And then what you need to do is you just need to fill in 6 of those words and just mind map around them. So I've started with pattern, and I've thought, well, I know that patterns can be repeated. I know that patterns can be symmetrical. I've put a little picture of a pattern on there. But if we think back to these words here, we can see that pattern can be spiral, can be overlapping, could be simple or complicated. Okay, so I want you to think about another 5 words here that you could mind map around. So that's the first thing that you're going to need to do. And then after you've done that, we're going to be thinking about mixing colours. Okay, so hopefully you've got some pencil crayons, or some pencils, or some crayons, or some paints at home, because we're going to be asking you to do a little bit of blending. Now, I know you've already done this. I know you've done a little bit in year 2, and I know you've done a little bit in year 3. If you click on here, this will take you to a YouTube clip where there's a lady talking about blending with coloured pencils that might help you. And then if you go onto the Google Drive, you'll see this document here that you can download and use to show your colour mixing. You don't have to download that sheet though. and you don't have to download the other sheet. You can just do both of those activities on a normal piece of paper if you don't have access to a printer. So you don't need to print them off. You can if you want to. As always, Miss O'Donnell, Mrs. Parker and I will be looking forward to seeing your artwork, to seeing what you've done already in this first session. And then next week when we come back, we're going to be carrying on and we're going to be looking at pointillism in a little bit more detail. So have fun with your art this week and I'll see you next week. Bye!